a great way to start. We have Ashwin swearing on the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rugby Chat, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. Tonight, what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk, we'll talk some Super Rugby, probably a bit of Fight Club. We'll probably talk also about a bit of the European Champions Cup. I mean, that was a bit crazy at the weekend. Making Mouse moments of the week from people, and somebody will hopefully turn off their TV in the background, and we'll also look at maybe some rule changes that we've had suggested coming in from the chat. So, joining me this evening, how are we all doing? Let's actually straight over to you, Ashwin. What are you wearing? You can even stand up and show us.
Oh, hang on. The cable.
Export Gold. Really? So
that was one sponsor. So that was the. This is the jersey I'm wearing tonight. Is the Auckland Rugby Union jersey, circa 1996-97. The NP, what they wore in what would have been then the Air New Zealand NPC.
Cool. Back in the day, and as I said to Ashton before the show, the shirt's older than most of our viewers. And also joining us is Stephen. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Privilege and a pleasure once again to be on the TDM. And tonight I'm wearing the jersey of the Mighty.
I've got to change the screen now. Okay, right. Yep, it's just you now.
I'm wearing the jersey of the Mighty Blues.
I've got one of those as well. I got given one of those by Scott Hornell of Last Word on Sports and Rugby United New Zealand. So yeah,
that would be the Scott Hornell that was a Blue supporter and then decided to flag it and go with the Highlanders.
Absolutely, that's the one. Yep.
And then so he handed you over the Blues one.
He did.
Will he return?
The history from about 4 or 5 years ago.
Hey, I'll take any freebies. Me, I'm not proud. I can tell you. You probably figured that by now. You got any weekends left? Oh, dearie me. Ashwin, did you get to see any of the European Rugby Champions Cup at the weekend?
Yeah, nah.
Okay, that's a no then.
But that's a no. That's a no from Ashwin. But I definitely saw some tweets about how good the Leinster-Ulster game was.
In-depth analysis from Ashwin there.
In-depth analysis,
tweets. Apparently, it was a good game.
apparently, as apparently kid would say.
Stephen, did you get to see any?
Really only seen highlights of both games, but probably more of the Toulouse Racing game, which sounds like a lot of the media reports was that looked upon more as an upset, Paul.
Which one, sorry? The Racing Toulouse?
Yes.
Well, I predicted Toulouse to win. Okay. We were because Toulouse are top of the top 14 by a country mile, whereas Racing 92 have had injury problems, as we'll know by the fact they tried to get Dan Carter in as an injury joker, and then found he was too injured to play. So. So that was there was some unreal offloads in that one. A bit of controversy around red cards, but hey, if you're going to hit someone around the neck, head area, you're going to get red carded. So
that was it Josh Holmes? He's the Australian first five, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I think so. But there was an absolute ridiculous offload in that game. So go and look out for that, because that it is it's brilliant. He's looking to his left. And it's done out the back of the right hand to a player who isn't there yet, but is arriving. But it's kind of a Bowden Barrett kind of thing that he did last season, where they were crossing.
Last season.
But the problem was this guy's actually getting tackled, whereas Bowden Barrett did it just on the run, whilst being tracked by a defender. It's unbelievable that. Yes. I'll ignore Ashwin's dad joke in the live chat. Saracens Glasgow. I mean, Saracens put up a record score, are looking ominous in this competition. As pretty much always, peaking at the right time of the year, all of that kind of stuff. I must admit, I didn't actually see that game. But the Leinster-Ulster game, that is an absolute cracker. As Ashwin says, everybody was absolutely raving about the game on Twitter, so I decided that I would not bother with highlights. I would go and sit down and watch the whole thing. And yeah, it's a cracking game. It's test match intensity. Ulster played absolutely fantastic, but basically ran out of steam. They just couldn't keep up the defensive effort in the second half, essentially. And that's what happened there. Charlize was saying that Ulster played out their skins in the last 7 minutes. Leinster came back into it. I think that's pretty much what everyone has got there. Andre says Glasgow are a funny team. Interesting to see what he means by that. They're a team that's lost Russell, and so they've had to. So they've got a relatively inexperienced fly half at the moment. They're going to lose Hogg in the off season this year, so they're going to have lost two basically Lions quality players, even though Russell wasn't on the Lions tour, he should have been. So they are a funny team. In fact, that Scotland just can't hold on to its players. A bit like South Africa, right, Stephen?
Yeah, pretty much so. I think I think for a team like Glasgow to be on point, they need a good number of their Scottish internationals to pretty much piece things together, and also take, for a lot of those guys, I would imagine, who are Scottish internationals, they would have taken a lot of confidence out of their very last game when they played England. Just showed that they can play some decent code players from Scotland. But listen, at the end of the day, we probably got the two best teams there, Leinster and Toulouse.
Well, we've got Leinster, Toulouse, Saracens, and Munster have all made it through.
Oh, you forgot about those other two. Yep.
So we're at the semi-final stage. So one of the things I must say is I got 4 out of 4 right on the in the Champions Cup quarterfinals, and 4 out of 4 right in the Challenge Cup quarterfinals, and those are two competitions we aren't putting any money on at the TAB for.
Mm. And anyway, you got everything wrong in Super Rugby.
Yeah, and in Super Rugby we didn't do quite so well. If you want to know how well we did, then head over to patreon.com/DrivingMaul. For as little as $1 a month, you can be a supporter of DrivingMaul, and yeah, we're doing a DrivingMaul versus the bookie series, and putting $2 on each of our picks. Each of my picks, I should say, at the TAB. Pardon me, and seeing if we come out ahead or behind. So far, there's a good reason why the TAB makes money.
Off Paul.
Oh, dearie me. So, Mickey Mouse moments of the week, boys. Stephen, have you got one?
Oh, no doubt I have, and once again I've researched it, so I've got absolutely no idea which one it is. To be honest, I'll go to you, Ashwin.
Well, for me, it's I don't know. It's not a funny Mickey Mouse moment. It's more of a frustrating Mickey Mouse moment. But and I think it was actually part of the game plan was that every breakdown the Stormers had to have an injury, and it was Mickey Mouse because every breakdown you had a cast of thousands running on. Because you have the Stormers cast of thousands coming on, obviously the Blues send the cast of thousands on, and it just while we were at the game, you're sort of wondering, is this game ever going to end? So yeah, it was rather frustrating. So it was Mickey Mouse in the sense that at every breakdown there was injury, and the other problem with that you saw was that Nick Bryant basically lost control of the game in a sense because of the fact that he really needed to get some of the players to say, no, up, or we're playing on, or you can go onto the sideline. So they have the 2 options, get up and play on, or go to the sideline to get fixed up, to get the game moving. Because there was, at the end of the day, one of the things, it's just, you got to create the spectacle, but honestly, the injuries on Saturday night were just farcical.
Now that I think about it, mine wasn't so much a Mickey Mouse moment, but you could arguably say the two respective hookers of the Bulls and the Sharks brought UFC into Super Rugby on the weekend.
MMA.
MMA, I should say.
Well, okay, if that's MMA, it's really, really soft MMA. I mean, that's like MMA for bunny rabbits. I mean, really,
a real bad impression. And you know what's probably furthermore, what's even more Mickey Mouse is the fact I think they only got 3 weeks per piece, which they were having a full-on fight, even though it kind of looked like handbags at 10 paces. But I do wonder about some of those sanctions. When you consider another red card given out in the Blues game to the Blues winger who got he could have got 8 weeks and he got 4 weeks, which I probably think is a little harsh given his record. But then again, it's there. The rules are there for the safety of the players, and that could have ended really quite badly for Dylan Nell had he received a severe injury. So yeah, that's probably my Mickey Mouse.
Actually, a genuine Mickey Mouse moment of the weekend, and we're talking about him in the chat room actually, is that Beauden Barrett, he actually threw a couple of shots, not the intercepts that he threw, but he actually threw a couple of passes that went to the ground and to nobody as well. So I remember with a couple of minutes left on the clock, game was over, and he threw this pass, and it was like there was nobody actually even there, and it wasn't even we had last week here we had Braden Eno pass it to the touch judge on the side. Well, this was the middle of the paddock, so there wasn't even any. I don't know if the Phoenix had played the day before, and there was a centre marking to pass it to.
Well, I was going to go something fairly similar because we talked about balls hitting posts and players running straight past it. But this weekend we had Marty McKenzie hitting the post and it being collected and put down. So so we had another. That was a nice, an executed Mickey Mouse moment.
You wouldn't call that Mickey Mouse. We wouldn't call that Mickey Mouse though. That's skill execution.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't think that was skill execution at all. I don't think he had any. I don't think he was aiming for that post. Let's be blunt.
Yeah, actually, I thought that when I saw it first, I didn't think he was aiming at the post. But there is a replay when you look at from a certain angle that when you see that, and it looks like, maybe he was aiming for the vicinity of the posts.
If I was going to say, if it was the NRL, the commentators would be saying he was aiming.
Sensational skills. He's seized the moment. He's seen that there's no players in behind. He's hit it against the post, so it stops and his player can pick it up. Yeah.
Either way, I think if it hadn't hit the post, I had a funny feeling Timur would have scored anyway.
Absolutely.
He was pretty much. He was the only player inside. It just hit the space. I suppose to give him a bit of credit. It's never easy when the ball bounces back quite quickly. He could have knocked that on, but credit to him. He had some very good skills to actually pick it up by the fingertips and dive over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No. Totes.
Totes.
As we were saying before the show, Ashwin, I'm down with the people. So those were our Mickey Mouse moments of the week. If you have any more in the live chat, folks, great to have all of you here, by the way. Thank you for joining us for tonight. Ashwin's already mentioned that we'll be talking about Beauden Barrett tomorrow night on the All Blacks edition, so don't forget to join us then at the same time. So did you? I think this is probably your section now. I think we should call this we now have the Stephen law change of the week.
No, that's not Stephen. That was me.
Oh, was it you? Was it? You put that in there? Oh, I thought Stephen said it was. We should. Sorry, Ashwin law changes of the week.
Look, before we go into the law changes of the week, something happened this week that I sort of thought was a great thing. If we can bring it into the show, there's people obviously live in the chat room at the moment, and there's people that will listen to this in podcast. And look, if you want us to talk about something, or if you've got an idea or whatever, send it through Twitter, either to Paul for Driving Maul or to myself. We've got Ryan, who's on Twitter handle at Celtic334. He sent through 3 law changes that he thought, and they're actually 3 of them not bad, but I picked one of them out. So yeah, if you've got something that you think we should discuss on the show, or if you've got a law that you think would be good to introduce, flick it through and we'll discuss it. And yeah, so here's Ryan's one. So as he said, he sent 3 through. Try saying that quickly after we've had a few beers. Anywho, if a team kicks for touch, a driving maul can only be formed directly off the line out if it is a short line out. So numbers 5 or less. And that will just stop teams dumping players into the line out and driving it forward. One thing we were talking about, or I was talking about, is that it is getting rather mundane, bit boring, is the teams that basically, kick into the corners and, driving maul and try. Now, look, it is good execution. Don't get me wrong. It's actually a part of the game. But as a spectacle, it's not that great when it's just like, okay, here we go. Here's a penalty. He's going to kick it into the corner, and there's not even like an element of, what are they going to do here? What are they going to do? You know what they're going to do. They're going to do a driving maul, and they're going to rumble it over the line. I think this rule that Ryan's mentioned allows for a driving maul to take place, but it can be combated. There's some competition. There's better competition because it's 5 as opposed to guys going in there and 8 getting a shove on, get a bit off. As soon as you're off the centre line, even the backs can join in type scenario. So I think that's a good option, and maybe there's some other little tweaks that they can introduce as well.
You know what? It's got merit. The only thing I will say, a good line out drive and maul is a bit of a skill, and if that's a team strength, I've got no actual issue with that. It's up to the other team to defend to get it. A lot of people, if you've ever seen the Crusaders defend a maul, a line out drive, they know how to defend a line out drive. You can defend it, and how you defend it is pretty much throw your numbers at it as soon as it hits the ground. And that's the mistake a lot of teams make. They actually give them an opportunity to set. So you just got to think about actually how you defend that maul. And yeah, I'm just not so sure, because rugby is a game for every shape and size, and we got a lot of.
Well, no. Let's be honest. Rugby is not for my shape and size. I would die. Let's be honest. So sorry, go on.
But that's I'll rephrase that. Every shape and size for the professional rugby player who's playing the game. And I know there's a lot of countries, like a lot of Eastern European countries, South American countries, who like a good scrum and a good line out, if you know what I mean. And that's what makes our game so different. I don't want every team to be the same. Teams have just got to learn how to stop a line out drive. It can be done legally.
One of the things that annoys me in mauls. I mean, I don't disagree with you actually, Steve. I think there is that. I think it's just that this Super Rugby season in particular, we are seeing some teams that are very proficient at that, and it gets a bit. I suppose this season is getting predictable, but you're right. At the end of the day, if you're good at it, it's an element of the game that they should be able to do. But in saying that, one thing that really I have an issue with is the fact is that why isn't the defending team allowed to collapse the maul? Now, I believe the reason why the defending team is not allowed to collapse the maul is because it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, then why is the attacking team allowed to collapse the maul? Because the attacking team, if we're stuck, we're getting held up, we want to get the ball to ground, they will collapse the maul to try and get the ball back.
Well,
so why are they allowed to collapse the ball?
You don't get the ball back if it gets trapped in. You're allowed to stay around it. So
no. I understand that, but if they're trapped, if the ball is trapped and they're not going to be able to get it out, one of the things they will try and do is collapse it, because once it collapses, there's the possibility that a ball comes free. We see it when centre field type scenarios when a ball's held up and the refs call the maul, they collapse it and the ball does come free. So why is the attacking team allowed to do things? There's a couple other things that the attacking team's allowed to do that the defending team isn't, and that's I don't I think that's an inconsistency amongst the laws.
I do want to.
I think you'll find that's an inconsistency in how it's officiated, rather than the actual laws themselves. I think the laws themselves will say, I understand you're going to say, Paul, that's 6 of one, half dozen the other. But I think the law just says you're not allowed to collapse a ruck, full stop. It doesn't say the defending team's not allowed to collapse a ruck. But it's just officiated that way.
So we've never seen an attacking team that's collapsed the maul being penalised. I've never seen it.
I agree. I'm just being from a pedant's point of view.
I was about to say, guys, during the 80s, when the Australians had some absolutely outstanding backs, the Ella brothers, guys like that running around. I can remember All Black packs would just basically tuck the ball under the jumper. We'd basically maul. We'd drive. It probably wouldn't go past the first 5, if you know what I mean. And we just had to pretty much keep the ball away from them and absolutely grind them. So it's kind of nothing. It's nothing new. We shouldn't always point the fingers at other teams from around the world. I know there was a period there where New Zealand rugby supporters and the New Zealand media really jumped on the English for basically using really big forward packs, kicking goals to win games. Well, I'll tell you what, if it's effective, you do it. Now the beauty is how you stop that, or you basically you find a way around it. It's as simple as that. I don't know. I'm sort of uncomfortable about trying to change something that.
Okay, so
we should look at history.
So talking
before we change something like.
Oh my God! Oh, careful there. Talking about the law changes, and a friend of Ashwin's and mine, a guy called Pierre. When I talked to him, he's basically said, "Look, if you've got new people arriving at a game to watch a game, they're sat next to an experienced person, and if the experienced person and they ask the experienced person, why did the referee blow that, and the experienced person goes, I haven't got a clue." That's a bad sign for where the laws are in the game. So I think for me the big thing is that we need to simplify rules as much as possible, rather than try and complicate them even more, because to make the game more accessible to people overall.
Hey, go on. It's funny. That's funny you say that. It's just like I'm going to blow my own trumpet here. I actually do get the calls, especially when I'm watching on TV. I generally get them right, and there's a good reason why I generally get the calls right on why a referee's done something, because I watch the referee and he gives indications on what the penalty's for, or the offence for, or what he's done in scramble. He gives it, and we're talking about an experienced person not being able to. Well, our commentators on Sky in New Zealand have an issue. One, Jay Marshall, the number of times he goes, "Oh yeah, the referee's given a penalty for this," and it's like, no, he hasn't. He's showing. He's saying. It's just like, oh, he's given a penalty for hands and ruck. No, he isn't. He's going like this, which means offside. So if you've got the commentators on TV struggling, you're going to be pushing the stuff proverbial uphill, aren't you? For
exactly.
Somebody that doesn't know.
One of the problems I think with the commentators, they've got somebody in their ear who is a producer or something telling them things, when they should actually be listening to the referee, because we can hear the referee. We can hear the referee say something, and they then contradict the referee, and you're like, no, that's not what he just said. And I think basically that they need to simplify the whole piece, rather than the broadcast situation, rather than just putting more and more people in the air. I mean, that was the excuse for, was it last season, one of the half-time guys, everyone said, oh, he's drunk. And apparently, no, he wasn't drunk. Just the feedback in his ear and what he was getting talked about, he was trying to concentrate on too many things at the same time, and so just couldn't get his words out. Let the people just talk, and keep it as simple as possible, folks. I
was going to say, look, I mean, one of the reasons that I've been going to the rugby and sitting with the same group of people, and we've got to know the people around us. And it's probably been, realist, probably close to 20 years with the same people.
Older than the jersey you're wearing, which is older than most people.
Yeah. And the reason why I sit there is we're actually, it's quite good. Somebody will say, oh, I can't believe, what's that penalty for? And somebody amongst the group will say, oh, this is what's happened, that's what's happened. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, and I think the other thing is that we're quite, We're quite realistic about the decisions mostly. Obviously, sometimes you get it wrong and you get riled up. But like for example, when the Talia incident happened on Saturday, all of us sitting there, that's red. And we're just waiting for it to come out. That's red. As soon as it happened, it was like, yeah, that's red.
I think a lot depends on the referee too. A lot of referees are very articulate. Listen, I thought we saw a very good refereeing performance on Sunday morning. I won't get into the game, but Chiefs v Hagawaris from Angus Gardner. He showed why he's one of the top referees in the world. Very, very clear with the explanations, but he'd also use sort of actions that the crowd could understand as well. And I don't know. New people come along. I think most people who know this game understands the rules with the referee's actions or motions.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think that this kind of esoterical rules like, you're only allowed X people in the line out if you're going to go do a driving maul and things like that. It does mean that if you suddenly put an 8-man line out up, the opposition might decide, actually, we're only put 7 men in, put one less person in and put someone in the midfield. Because you can't drive against us, so we're going to just peel off and run into the midfield and that kind of thing. So to me, this one I would say no. This one's too esoteric to me.
Yeah, just on that though, I believe the law is you have to match the number of players that the opposition has in a scrum or line out.
Sure, but as soon as it's thrown,
I think that's
somebody could just peel off and run off into the midfield, for example. You could just say, okay, your job is to just peel off and run away. The 6 of us left here can do that. But anyway, to me, that kind of thing is, I say too esoteric. So in the chat though, Gavin says that he wished ref would use common sense with the roll away rule also. So, Arshan, since you've provided feedback already in the chat, do you want to provide your feedback, your initial feedback to that?
Oh, sorry. About rolling. Was it? Sorry, I was just typing,
About
so I missed
away,
that.
yes.
The rolling away. Yeah. So I was just saying, it's really frustrating. I was going to think too many times we're seeing where the referee is pinging a player for not rolling away when the attacking team is actually pinning him in there. Simply speaking, just set a scrum. There's, or the fact is stop penalising a defending team for not rolling away when the fact is that the attacking team has intentionally pinned them in there so they can get the penalty. And effectively, you could say that's just as cynical as a defending team doing a cynical play on the try line type scenario.
Don't.
Do you want to go to some signals, or shall I rebut?
Yeah. No, I actually don't disagree too much with what Ashwin. I think a lot of the savvy referees, you can actually hear the referees through the microphones. They're actually telling the players, I can see what you're doing. You're trying to hold them in. The ball is actually playable. Just probably need a little bit more, not so much common sense from referees, but we all know sometimes we see some really big tackles where the two bodies go to ground and then the next arriving person comes in, gets knocked over, and it becomes a pile up. In situations like that, I think the referee should just reset another scrum. If it's not coming out again, hey.
Yeah. Why?
Reset another scrum.
Because when you give away simple penalties in a kicking zone, you're affecting the outcome of the game when really the defending team isn't actually trying to necessarily not roll away type scenario. There's lots of little things.
Okay, I'm going to stop you both there. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a story. So I'm going to take the camera onto just me. So Nigel Owens tells a story that he got bluffed by Lawrence Dallaglio once, where he saw basically Lawrence Dallaglio end up in the wrong place in a ruck, and Lawrence Dallaglio turned around to him and went, "Oh, sorry, ref, it was an accident. I didn't mean to be there." And so he decided he changed the yellow card decision to just a penalty. He got told soon afterwards, or in his post-referee review, by the referee guy, was like, no, he knew exactly what he was doing. He's a professional rugby player. Well, that's how he ended up there. And that's what this comes down to, is you need to fix your tackling technique so that you land in the right place. And it's tackling technique. The problem with allowing players to be in there and so-called trapped is that they've got the tackle technique in the first place wrong, that puts them in that position, and it's a training point to get them so they can actually tackle and end up out of the way, because they can definitely tackle and end up in the way on purpose, and it slows the game down.
No, I'm more sort of thinking the player that comes along and he's in kui of the ruck, and so the attacking team sort of basically, as part of hitting the ruck, will grab that person, and then they all end up in there, and now they're trapping the ball, sort of thing. So that's where I'm more sort of thinking. I'm not sort of thinking of the initial hit and where they're rolling sort of scenario. I'm sort of thinking as the supporting players come to clear the ruck, and how they enter and what they attack and where they attack, sort of thing. So
but my point is that the tackling player shouldn't land on that side anyway. If they've landed there, that's they've either done
totally
it on
disagree
purpose.
there. Totally disagree. I mean, you do a side on tackle. The logic is physics dictate that you're going to end up on the attacking side of the ruck if you hit a side on. Just the way that because you've got the player running past you, you hit them side on. Momentum means by the time you've completed the tackle, he should be just past that line of contact, which means that you're effectively going to be on the attacking side. Sure, head on tackle.
There's a difference between being on the attacking side and lying sort of goalpost to goalpost way, where you're not really intruding, and tackling and ending up sideline to sideline. If you tackle and end up sideline to sideline, it's your own fault.
Listen, Paul, I've seen a situation where a smaller guy has dropped a bigger guy in the tackle, got to his feet, and at the same time that he's got to his feet, has been cleaned out. Been cleaned out by the next man in, and then people have fallen on him, and there is no way he could physically get in, and he's actually trapped in there, and then he's got penalised. Those are the ones where I'm saying, gee,
that's what we're talking about.
Those ones I agree with you, but I say the initial tackler should never end up sideline to sideline on the attacking side.
Yeah.
No, look, but that's what we're talking about. There's the guy that's accidentally, because it does happen. I mean, it's not a perfect contact and positioning. I understand what you're saying about technique and all that, but it's just like what Steve's saying. And there's other sort of, half moments like that happen where you're getting up to the side of the ruck. And that's the other thing, that let's face it, how many times do we actually see in a ruck where the player from either side, and we're talking about the attacking players here, actually enter the ruck from the hindmost feet, 90 degrees to the ruck? That doesn't happen. It probably about 50% of the time happens. Most of the time, they're entering from the side and should be penalised. And that's when they get that player, that's the defender, who's trying to roll out, gets caught, like what Stephen's saying, and gets taken into the ruck. And then the one that gets penalised for it.
No, I understand the guys getting taken into the ruck. As I say, I'm talking about the guy who actually tackles. So another one here, okay, is that Andre said it in the chat. We've said it we've said it in the chat. We've said it out loud as well. But at the end of the day, the referee should manage it better, which is kind of what you guys are also coming from.
Yeah.
Now, we basically have two options, folks. Okay. Basically, either we have strict rules and we have consistency, or we have empathy for the game and we have inconsistency. The question is, folks, which one do you want?
No, I don't think it's a case of that. What we've just talked about and the scenarios that we're given, it's just a simple part of the game, and it's a scrum, is what we're saying. It's not a penalty, because the attacking team has effectively trapped the ball by using the defender. The defender has not trapped the ball intentionally in a penalty situation. So that's what we're basically talking about, and the fact is that it's just part of the game, and it's not a penalty.
I get where you're coming from, but I still think if you're going to ask for a judgment call by the referee, you're asking for inconsistency.
Making a judgment call right through the game. Every decision's effectively, or not every. Sorry, that's probably an exaggeration, but a lot of the calls in a rugby game are a judgment call.
Yeah, this is what you won't find me on the whole bad. Yep. I avoid having to go at referees because I think they generally make less mistakes than players. Is my kind of is my kind of rule of thumb. Therefore, it's the players that are deciding the outcome of the game on the whole, rather than referees. Now, I'm sure you can bring individual examples out that where that's not true, and there's always an exception that proves the rule. What is Steve? I've not seen this.
Brilliant.
No, come on, Steve. Put it back. I didn't see. I've got it full on screen now. I didn't see what you. That's got
Sorry. If you're on the podcast and listening to the show, Steve Harlan, Paul.
Well, more of a ukulele. That's a pink ukulele.
Love you like a brother, Paul, but you're talking a lot of Todd.
Oh, dear me.
Oh, dear.
No, okay. My belief is that the more that you put down to interpretation, the more that you can have inconsistency. And as long as we're happy with inconsistency, if we want people to have the feel for the game, then I'm okay with it. But it's a question of which way you want to go.
Yeah, I think we'll sort of agree to disagree that there are times it's very, very frustrating. I mean, to say something I see that frustrates the hell out of me. Sometimes I see a player go to ground and there is simply no clear release. And that is to me, that is a real variable breakdown rules. Whether it's and I don't even know if it's a southern hemispheres things. I actually just think it's a completely different thing with referees. To be fair, the referee is right there. We're watching through our televisions at home, and the referee is right there. He can probably see the things where players aren't. I mean, to say players are now arcing so wide with their legs that it almost looks like they're not keeping their own weight to us watching at home. But what we actually don't realise, they are keeping their weight, but it's just really the way that they've got their body in and over the ball.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that Ashwin and I have agreed on in the past. It's nice to find the things we do agree on. Is around players going past the ball and basically not supporting their own weight. Personally, I think as soon as the shoulders go beneath the hips, you should just basically say that person's not supporting their own weight, and forget it. To me, that would be my way of going about it.
I mean, we should probably move on, but I was just like, it's simple. The hands either have to go on the ball or on the player in the ruck. The hands going on the ground is a penalty because they've sealed off.
So, moving on, rather slowly rather than swiftly.
Laws of the game are always going to be a hot topic.
The next hot topic? Oh, geez. The next hot topic, I'm just going to sit back and have a beer and just relax because, boys, you're both in your Blues jerseys. I am a Blues supporter, but I've got my Lions jersey on tonight. Blues 3 out of 3, the longest winning streak in New Zealand rugby. What more is there to say? I mean, champions surely.
We're going to the final. We're going to the
finals.
We're going to the.
Well, Ashwin,
yeah, you go.
Just want to look at a couple of thoughts, and probably a couple of people have asked me over the last couple of days, Steve, what's the improvements that you see? Well, one improvement to me stands out, and there was a bit of criticism about the coaches having All Blacks on the bench, but in hindsight, it seems to be a masterstroke that they're bringing. With the Blues have now developed a little bit of strength off the bench in that last 20 odd minutes or last quarter, and once again that was critical. Come back, Paul. And I think that was quite critical, and I just think there's been a real uplift from the pack in terms of energy. The set piece lineouts reasonably good. The set piece scrums reasonably good. The set piece lineout, even though they have a few problems, I think the great thing about it, Ashwin, they actually have options. Even though the lineout may have malfunctioned a little bit on Saturday evening, they were able to, they recognised it and they went back to Tom Robinson at the front of the lineout. That brilliant try that Talia scored actually was off the top ball, taken it at number 2 from Tom Robinson. So there's just that little incremental improvements. They're definitely not the finished articles. There's still a few work-ons in terms of the in terms of this particular team and franchise. You kind of look at, I think their exits at the minute still need a lot of work, and I also think sometimes they've got to recognise that they're in a when you're in a battle, you've got to take the points that are on offer and not turn them down. They've just got to recognise that. But no, there's some really, really good improvements. There are some there are some areas that probably only personnel can improve that. But no, it's really good to see. It's been a long time in the making. But listen, I'm not getting too carried away at this stage. We've beaten the Highlanders team that's probably showing it's maybe struggling a little bit this year, and we've beaten the Stormers team. Whilst I got to say they were very, very good up front. You only have to look at the Springboks that they had in the pack. I don't know if they offered a heck of a lot out wide. I thought their skill level on last pass was a little bit average, to say the least. Sorry, I probably picked the bones out of most of their carcass.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Ashwin, but I'll leave a little bit for you to chip away at.
Yeah, so next topic then.
I think the decision is the I just suddenly had a brain sort of brain freeze. The new number 10, not Cherry Black, the other one. You're talking about going for 3, and you don't. If you've got him kicking, he's not been great this season. So
so Harry Plummer actually has got kicking ability. So effectively, he needs to get on the practice field and get his kicking game right. At Mitre 10 Cup level last year, he started off very poorly, but towards the end of the season, he actually. So mid-season, there was a game against Taranaki into the wind to win the game. He kicks a sideline conversion. The NPC final to take the game into extra time, he kicks a sideline conversion. And it's not just one-off kicks in those games. He actually did his consistency, like he was kicking 90%. But in his first few rounds in Mitre 10, he was kicking like about 60% or even less. So he's got the capability to be more accurate. He's not obviously got to get on the practice pitch and fix whatever's going wrong at the moment. The other thing I was going to say, I think the decision making.
Stay on there. What it might be is just nerves at this level, and he's got to get used to the new level of rugby, and get used to the slightly bigger crowds, the more noise. There are other players you see them step up. Initially, they struggle, and they get their nerves under control and or their adrenaline under control, and then they master it. So maybe there's an element to that.
Yep, absolutely. And that's obviously again still though the training paddock type scenario, because you've got to work out how do you control that extra energy that you've got through adrenaline or through nerves, because it basically just transposes itself as energy coming out. So you got to manage it. So I was to say the accuracy, I think of the decision making is quite different this year. You notice, it's been years of sitting at the end of the field. I sit end on, and there's no defenders on the left-hand side, and they pass the ball to the right. Well, this year the ball is going to the side where there's no defenders. So there's one of the things that I noticed on Saturday night was the fact referring to Steve. They need to get better distance on their kicks. I think the capability's there, but it's just really, there was some, with the wind, there were some poor exits where they should have got up to halfway or over it, and they really only got up to the 40-metre mark. The other thing that, as I said, Steve picked the bones out of it, but a noticeable change I felt with the line-out going wrong for the Blues, they moved Tom Robinson to 2 and started throwing to him. And obviously the try came out of it, but there was secure ball that they were able to achieve by putting Tom Robinson at 6 by making that change. So although the line-out was going wrong, it's great to see that in the middle of the game, they obviously made a decision change on how they would fix the line-out. Now, that goes back to against the Highlanders as well, because against the Highlanders, Carl Tuanakafi came on and was playing tight head, and Ofa Tuangafasi came on and was playing loose head. And it's like they got munted in the first scrum, and we got 2 All Blacks. We were like, the All Blacks are on. And it's like, scrum will be good. And they got pushed back in the first scrum. and they made an executive decision on the field. It's like, hang on, you're a loose head. You get on the other side. I can play tight head because Offa can play both sides. I'll go on the tight head. So it's good to see those decisions being made by experienced players on the field to change what's happening. So that's good to see. But as Steve said, I'm personally, and I've said this on the Blues Supporters for Life page on Facebook, I'm not getting carried away. There's been too many years of seeing strength and ability, and that just hasn't transpired on the field. So I think there's a long way to go. I don't think it's a finished article, and that's a great thing. And the players allude to this as well. And the fact is that there's still a lot of work-ons. So the fact that they're winning, they've won 3 in a row, and the fact that there's a lot of work-ons that they understand is the good thing. So, each week you sort of say, hey, look, you did this last week, but that's flush the dunny, move on. You got to do it again this week. And you go in with nerves every week at the moment, and that will be the way until you've probably got a season of results.
And so last weekend you guys got to go down onto the pitch post game and talk to some of the players, have a little bit of a chat with them, and that's where you're getting some of that from, which is nice to see. So yeah, this is straight from, as you say, being in the West Stand at Eden Park, talking to the players on the pitch afterwards when they let you on the pitch, and that kind of stuff, which is great. So we're just going to take a quick commercial break, and say that hi, please. There's a link down below, which is to patreon.com/DrivingMaul, which gives you access to exclusive content where I give you my opinions on topics such as this week I'll be talking about the Asia Super Rugby League, that level below Super Rugby that they're talking about putting in. I'll also be talking about the new law trials that they're bringing in as well. Also, it helps to support me to bring you, or us guys, to bring you these free shows as well. So please go down there, click on that, and become a patron of Driving Maul and a supporter of Driving Maul. Also, actually, by the way, Ashwin was talking before about you can bring topics into here. If you want an exclusive video all about a topic, become a patron and I'll give it to you. Simple as that. So, one of the things I've been talking about on Twitter today with a couple of guys who run various algorithmic prediction systems is that basically this is a crazy close league, apart from one thing: the team that's going to win it. I mean, this is one of the best seasons of Super Rugby for a long time, except the most important question we already know the answer to. It's a little bit nuts, isn't it?
Oh, look, I mean, you can't. I mean, I suppose by what we talked about before, you've picked those Northern Hemisphere competitions and you got them all right. You come to Super Rugby and you sort of think, oh, last week those guys were absolutely amazing. And so we'll pick them this week, and this week they get tipped up easily. So, Waratahs would be the best example. So they go from tipping over the top of the table Crusaders to losing to the Sunwolves. And that's the competition.
Yeah, they're the Crusaders. They're definitely the team to beat. I heard a comment during the week where they asked the question, "What's the second best team in the competition?" And a couple of people turned around and said, "Probably the Crusaders B team." So their second 15 is probably the better team at the moment. That probably speaks more volumes about their strength and depth. They're able to pull guys off the bench. I mean to say, and when you can pull a Will Jordan off the bench at kickoff time, I just forget who he might have replaced at the 11th hour in that Crusaders lineup, and it just plays not so much a blinder, but just fits in like a glove, and it just seems to be their ethos. Definitely the team to beat.
No, they are the team to beat. But when you look at that, I mean, we've talked about the Blues quite a lot, obviously, because of where we are, who we are, and where we come from. But that Crusaders Hurricanes game on the way, Hurricanes had all the ball. Hurricanes made all the running. It was their poor execution, and it's. I think what it is that too many teams are coming up against the Crusaders, and it's a panic type scenario, and it's just like they need to maintain composure. To beat them. I mean, they did get. I think they struggled in the tight five, which we know that the Hurricanes are always going to struggle in the tight five. But when you look at it around the park, they just really lacked composure. 3 tries. The Crusaders scored 4 tries. 3 of them were off the back of Hurricanes' mistakes.
I say is the super. I would say that the Crusaders' strength is perhaps not their second 15, how good they are, but more the fact that all their players just know the system more than anything else. It was Bridge that was missing out there that missed last weekend. But I think it's more about just knowing the system. One of the things I picked up during by interviewing lots of coaches during the Milestone Cup last year is you'd talk to them about how their second half performance went, and you go, well, is your fitness a problem? And they'd go, no, the guys are fit, but our structures all fell apart, and that we lost our, well, the words they use are we lost our shape when the new players came on. And if you keep your shape, then it's much easier to play. And I think that's the difference that the Crusaders have over pretty much everybody else is they've got about 32 players who know the shape like the back of the hand. Most of the teams have about maybe 23, 24 that know it. And then if certain players go, they don't know the shape.
Paul, I thought they were really classy in that very first game against the Blues, because it just looked like the Blues were actually getting on top of them. And then all of a sudden, they had trust in their structures, and they tried a couple of little moves in and around that Channel 1 and Channel 2 and just absolutely opened up the Blues. So it didn't sort of stop them from either panicking or straying away from what you're basically talking about, your structure or your shape. Just probably just a little bit unfortunately, by their own admission, they'd probably say they dodged a bullet that particular night. So the Blues did show that night, if you stand up and look them in the eye and stay in the contest, they are beatable. No question. I do believe the loss to the Waratahs was just I personally think was a bit of a blip on the radar screen. There was they'd lost a few players. They didn't have Richie Moanga playing that night. It was a wet night in Sydney, and fortunately for the home side, they played the right tactics. I'll bet you dollars to donuts if they played that game again in 7 days' time in dry conditions, it would be a completely different story.
Oh, wet conditions. No, but one thing I've mentioned, I think it might have been off here. I don't know if I've mentioned it on here, but with the Crusaders, they have got a bit of a chink in the armour when Moody and Franks aren't playing, and you do notice it. And that's what I'm saying. Against the Hurricanes, Moody and Franks weren't playing, but unfortunately for the Hurricanes, they just don't have a tight five, and really, they didn't have the composure, and I think that's off the back of the fact that they don't have a tight five to muscle it up. You can't keep going. You can't go wide. You don't have to defend a Hurricanes pack up front because they can't take it up the guts. So you can fan out or you can manage it. So you can have your defence front, and they're going side to side. They can't go anywhere. Bowden Barrett's throwing it to nobody. It was just a shambles. I mean, when you look again, there's some comment from Hurricanes fans. It was like frustration because it was really the Hurricanes didn't actually offer anything on the night.
So if we have a quick look at the tables, in the New Zealand conference, you've got the Crusaders out front on 24 points, as we've already talked about. The Hurricanes on 19 points. The Blues on 15 points, but they've played a game less. So if they win that game in hand, suddenly they're on 19 points. The Highlanders on 13 points. Again, if they lose that game, they've got a game in hand, they win that, suddenly they're on 17 points. So you've got 3 teams there effectively within 2 points. The Chiefs, they're further back, but look, the Chiefs have started horribly and are starting to turn things round. Over in Australia, you've got the Rebels on 18, only 3 points behind. You've got the Waratahs, 3 more points back to the Brumbies. And the Brumbies have been a bit poor. And the Brumbies, with just 1 more point back to the Reds. Now, the Sunwolves have played 1 more game. They're also on 10 points like the Reds. So we're talking about their basically 1 win between first and third-ish. Over in South Africa, so all these teams have played 6 games, but the Lions on 18, 1 point back to the Bulls, another point back to the Sharks, 2 more points back to the Stormers. So if the Stormers get a bonus point win and the Lions lose, they go top. The Jaguares on 10. So the Jaguares are a bit further back, but those top 4 are all within a bonus point win. It is a very tight competition this year. I know Andre is saying that it's the same as any year. If you play badly, you're going to lose. But I think this year it's first to fourth in pretty much most of the conferences is within a win or a bonus point win, which is nuts. So very tight. And when you're having to rest players because of the Rugby World Cup, it's become even more fun. So
yeah, look, I mean, there's some interesting times coming up with those standings as well. I mean, like we've talked about the Hurricanes. I think once teams are going to see that they basically got to beat the Hurricanes up front, and you've gone a long way to beating the Hurricanes. The Highlanders, they've got Aaron Smith that's out for about 4 to 6 weeks. They've got Naholo out for 6 weeks. That's 2 strike weapons for them. Although Naholo's not in form, he's still a player that you'd like to have out there. So, there's some interesting things happening. Obviously, the Blues getting Talia gets, 4 weeks. I think Rico, they're going to say that the bye week was his rest week, so they might get away with that by the looks of it. But they nearly had 2 wingers fresh coming out this weekend.
The All Blacks players are going to play 6 games maximum on the trot, apparently.
Yep.
So, the weeks count as a break.
Yep. And even within the New Zealand conference, you got the Chiefs that are, they've won 2 away. They won 2 on the road, which is, and we're not talking about 2 on the road in Australia. We're talking 2 on the road. Let's call it South Africa. I know one was in Argentina. But that's a big ask, and so you got to say that they're back on track, sort of thing. And it's interesting. I made the comment to someone when the Chiefs drew with the Canes just before they left for their trip. It was very similar to the NPC, where the Waikato team was awful, and the Wellington team came up to Hamilton, put their second 15 on, for want of a term. And they got smoked by the Waikato team. And it's interesting.
10 players changed that game. Yep.
Yeah, and it's very similar for what's happened in the Super Rugby. The Waikato team didn't quite. It was a draw, but they've got momentum out of that game against a Wellington side, and got them one on the road twice.
I think Waikato lost 1 game after that game. They beat the Wellington, which was to Otago in the last group stage. Of the round robin round when they'd already secured a home semi-final. So it was around Philly Shield game though. So go on.
I was about to say, guys, I think Friday, the first game this Friday between the Highlanders and Hurricanes, first game of round 8, I think that might tell a story in itself about where these 2 respective sides are probably heading this season. If the Hurricanes win, that'll put them a point behind the Crusaders, and I think the Highlanders, if they lose, that could put them in with a lot of hard work to make those playoffs. Conversely,
Steve, with that game, the Highlanders beat the Hurricanes last time in the Cape Town, if I remember rightly. Sorry, the Canes got the penalty on full time yes. to win the game. Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
But I can see the Highlanders, even though it's funny because in the Tupperware container, it's a running game, but I can see them because they've got a decent pack. The Highlanders is to basically try and rumble, put the pressure on the Hurricanes pack because they've got no Aaron Smith and the Holo factor.
We were talking about the points there, but if you look at the points difference, the Crusaders plus 73, the Hurricanes in second place 0, the Blues plus 5. The Highlanders minus 7, which tells you those games, whilst the Highlanders might be 6 points behind the Hurricanes, minus 7, that it's been one or 2 points here and there that have made the difference. It's not a clear cut thing.
Yeah.
So, boys, we're running out of time, and we got the biggest question of the week to ask you. Arsene, which game are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, look, it's hard for me to say because my answer is always going to be a Blues game.
Come on, then. That can be your answer. It's allowed to be.
Yeah, it's allowed to be, but I think for what the reasons that Steve's just mentioned, the Highlanders Hurricanes game is going to be an intriguing watch.
Yeah, that's the same for me, Paul. Highlanders Hurricanes. That's the game that interests me the most.
I think just on the back of it, I mean, you always the South African conference, because you're, for want of a better term, because you've got the Hagawaris in there. That's becoming a very interesting one, because they just seem to be knocking each other over each week unpredictably. So that's always a good one to keep an eye on as well. Anything happening over there at the moment?
It's interesting that the Lions are playing the Sharks on a Friday night as well. It's something that we've seen a little bit more frequently. I think we saw it like maybe once last season. We've seen it twice this season already. So it's interesting the change there in when they're hosting games. But that Lions versus Sharks game that you're kind of alluding to, plus then on the Saturday night we've got the Bulls versus the Jaguares as well. But the Jaguares just struggle with the travel, don't they?
And it's
put travel and altitude together, and it's a tough old game for them. It's
good time to wake up, Paul. 6:10 Saturday morning.
Yep. The kids will be jumping on the bed anyway.
My kids won't. You need to train your kids better, Ashwin. Mine won't disturb me until 8 o'clock.
Train your dragon. How to train your dragon.
Oh, dearie me. So yes, you're right. The first game of the weekend is the key game, really. Highlanders Hurricanes, because we've then got Reds Stormers. Stormers had a bunch of injuries and haven't been travelling well. Lions Sharks. The Sharks haven't beaten a South African team all season, so that's not looking good. Crusaders Brumbies. We've already seen what happened to them when they come over here and go to Palmerston North. Blues Tars. Well, Blues are on a roll. Rebels Sunwolves. The Rebels looking good, and then Bulls Jaguares, as we said before. So thank you, everybody. It has been fun as always. And we'll be back tomorrow night with the All Blacks edition. Apparently, we're going to talk about Beauden Barrett quite a lot.
I think he's going to talk. We're going to talk about Beauden Barrett a lot tomorrow, and Richie Mo'unga and Damien McKenzie.
Really, just those three? Because I think we might also need to talk about Ione and Terry Black as to who is actually the third choice. Number 10. Is it really Beauden Barrett, or is he a 15 now? So
yes. Well, let's not give away too much. all tomorrow.
So all tomorrow over on the All Blacks Edition channel. The three of us will be back talking All Blacks Edition. But up there is a link to subscribe to this channel where we will have post-match reaction to the Highlanders versus Hurricanes and the Blues versus Waratahs, as well as a preview on Thursday evening of all the games. Once we've got the 23, once we've got the players mentioned who are playing. Down there is a link to Patreon. Where I talk to you this way, where you become a supporter of DrivingMaul, get exclusive content, and help us bring these free shows to you for free. And then over there, YouTube says those are two fantastic videos. Apparently, they've got an artificial intelligence and everything that tells you that. So please go click on those too. Get it out of the way.